Hey everyone, welcome back to the Swiftly Sung Stories podcast. I'm your host, Jen. I am your Swifty English teacher, and today we are tackling track 6 in my track-by-track analysis of the life of Showgirl. We're going to dive straight into Ruin the Friendship. The song showcases Taylor's narrative storytelling with this tale of a childhood friend gone too soon and the regret she experiences having never explored a romantic relationship with them. But what's the song really getting at? We're going to find out together. In my last few episodes, I analyzed Taylor's prologue poem and the first 5 tracks of this album, so go check those out because it lays a lot of groundwork for what we're about to get into, all of these themes that Taylor's exploring in these lyrics. And a quick PSA, all of this content is available on my website if you want the text version with the annotated lyrics that you'll see on the screen in YouTube. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can also find me wherever you get your podcasts and vice versa. Okay, let's lay a little groundwork first on the themes within the song, and then we will roll into my dissection of Ruin the Friendship line by line. Welcome to Swiftly Sung Stories, where we unpack the Taylor Swift universe one era, album, and lyric at a time. Think of it like English class, but it's all Taylor Swift and none of the boring stuff. I'm Jen, your Swifty English teacher, and class is in session, so come on in and meet me in the margins. Ruin the Friendship is really a narrative about regret, where our narrator looks back on all of these opportunities she missed and the roads not taken. It ties into these major themes that run throughout the album, and it explores this duality of self and the different versions of herself. In a lot of songs on this album, Taylor's exploring the road not taken, and this song is no different. In The Fate of Ophelia, she wonders what would have happened had this new person not come into her life. In Elizabeth Taylor, she wonders how the story ends and how much control she has over her fate. In Opalite, she asks what would have been if she hadn't opened herself up to accepting joy, etc. It goes on and on. So what a lot of this album is about the showgirl versus the girl, these two parts of herself. And the rest is really about what would have, could have, should have happened had she chosen another path. So Ruin the Friendship is in this sort of second vein of themes. It's the road less traveled by, and it zooms in on one relationship in particular in the past that she regrets not exploring. We're back to a high school setting, and she describes how special this friendship is. But then after she grows up and moves on, she learns that this old friend has died. She has written about this subject before in Forever Winter on Red, which was rumored to be inspired about a high school friend, Jeff Lang, who died just as she was releasing Speak Now. Now, Ruin the Friendship could be partially about Jeff Lang, but in the release party of A Showgirl, she says that this song was sort of an amalgamation of her own experiences and her friends' experiences. But overall, the song is mostly just about regret and taking chances and what we lose when we leave childhood behind and we have to grow up. Okay, let's roll right into the first verse. Quick caveat, this is just all my opinion. You can have your own opinions about this. That's why art is so cool and why it's so fun to dissect, because it has so many different meanings for different people. I try not to talk about Taylor's personal life unless it really informs the song and unless it provides crucial context that we need to understand the lyrics. All right, let's go. So the first verse begins with glistening grass from September rain, gray overpass full of neon names. So we're plopped right into the middle of this narrative with some contrasting imagery. There's the glistening grass, which conjures this fresh fall morning, maybe the start of a new school year. But then she juxtaposes this with this gray, dull highway imagery. So the neon names could be graffiti, could be the business signs dotted along the highway, but all of Taylor's imagery is purposeful. And neon names reminds us of a very similar piece of imagery she used in The Lucky One. Another name goes up in lights. You wonder if you'll make it out alive. If we read into it this way, it's sort of subtly foreshadowing what's to come for our narrator. Her name will go up in lights. But it also kind of foreshadows what will happen to her friend. His name will, metaphorically, burn out. You drive 85, she continues. So he's got the pedal to the metal. He's zipping through this fall Tennessee day. And this implies a kind of carelessness and riskiness, and contrasts with how our narrator is super careful in taking chances throughout this whole story. But the setting, just like the imagery, is also purposeful. And cars and driving are really common metaphors in Taylor's world, especially in her earlier albums, where the road often symbolizes paths we take or don't take. Here they are driving down this road of life together, but soon their paths will diverge. Gallatin Road and Lakeside Beach, she goes on, and this is name-checking particular points in Hendersonville, Tennessee, where Taylor spent parts of her teen years. So what this does is anchors her story in the real world. It's making it feel as though this situation really happened to her. And whether it did or not is beside the point. It's a storytelling device that she's using to give us the perception of reality. So we've got it all in these first few lines. We've got characters, we've got setting, we've got imagery, and we have a central metaphor. They're driving down this road of life together. Then she recalls this other nostalgic moment with this friend, watching the game from your brother's Jeep. She's painting a portrait of this normal, small-town everyday life, but in retrospect, it will look like just another moment that she let pass her by. You don't know what you've got till it's gone, as Joni Mitchell would say. So now they're sitting in the Jeep in this rural, small-town America day, but then she notices your smile miles wide. His smile and the emotions it stirs in her is what made this moment magical. And describing his smile as miles wide also ties into the previous road and driving imagery and metaphors. But this also foreshadows the darker end of the road that's ahead. The first chorus begins, and it was not an invitation. Should have kissed you anyway. Should have kissed you anyway. And she's talking about his smile here. Even though it was alluring and it could have been this magical moment, she wasn't invited to kiss him, so she didn't. His smile will be the first in a list of 3 things in these lyrics that were not an invitation. But what she's getting at here is that she shouldn't have waited for an invitation. It's not just about the kiss. The larger meaning is that we shouldn't wait to express how we feel about important people in our lives. Like she said in You're on Your Own, Kid, take the moment and taste it. You've got no reason to be afraid. This is a big theme in the Taylor Swift universe, and she's even written an entire album about it called Speak Now. The song could actually fit perfectly on Speak Now. But she goes on, and it was not convenient, no, but your girlfriend was away. Should have kissed you anyway. So it was a convenient time to kiss him, right? His girlfriend wasn't around to find out. But what's important is that the implications wouldn't have been convenient for anyone, anywhere, anytime. She doesn't want the fallout and the drama. There was never a perfect time to disrupt their lives by ruining this friendship. But that's the point. She's looking back at all of these moments in hindsight. And what she's saying is that in our lives, we will be faced with choices. And it's never convenient to make these difficult decisions. But if we never take a chance, we will never know what could have been. The second verse begins with another anecdote, and we are moved to a different location in probably a different place and time. So she begins, shiny wood floors underneath my feet. Disco ball makes everything look cheap. So we are now probably in a high school gym. The floors are glistening under these twirling lights of a disco ball. And this is really visceral imagery, especially if you've ever been to an American high school dance. And the disco ball, not the mirror ball, by the way, makes everything look cheap because it's trying to manufacture ambiance. It doesn't feel authentic or romantic. It feels staged. So she's looking around at all these depressing decorations in where she usually has her gym class. And it's this moment that's supposed to be the highlight of your teen years. And she says to herself, have fun. It's prom. They should feel joyful during what should be this epic moment of high school life, but it feels kind of empty and dead inside somehow. Could it be? Possibly, because they are there with the wrong dates. Yeah, that's why. She continues with some more imagery. Wilted corsage dangles from my wrist. So there's another depressing detail, which kind of mirrors how she feels about her date. We get the sense that he had placed this corsage on her wrist, and if it had been by the person she truly cared about, it may have been a beautiful, bright, crisp, alive corsage, but it's not. This can't help but remind me of another dead flower metaphor, when all the flowers that we'd grown together died of thirst, from Clean. Taylor will often use flower and plant imagery and metaphors to describe growth and death, and this wilted corsage is no different. So you can imagine her dancing with her hand over her date's shoulders, and she's looking at this sad corsage, and she says, Over his shoulder, I catch a glimpse and see you looking at me. The only bright spot in this pale prom is his eyes, and they share this knowing glance. Your eyes will always look toward what you want, and neither of them can look away. But there's always going to be something in the way, it seems. Before, he was with his girlfriend. That was emotionally an obstacle between them. And now it's her date, and maybe his date, who is physically between them. But in hindsight, she kicks herself. She shouldn't have let those things get in the way just because the timing wasn't perfect. The second chorus begins the same way as the first, and it was not an invitation. Now, this is second on the list of things that weren't an invite, and this time she's talking about this knowing look that they share on the dance floor that was not the invitation. But as the 50 Cent song played, should have kissed you anyway. This is her second moment where she should have gone for it, moment in a series of imperfect moments that she regrets not going after what she wanted. And the 50 Cent song, although it sounds maybe a little corny, it adds another layer to this imperfection because they're dancing to a rap song. They're not dancing to a slow romantic ballad. This moment was far from perfect, but she should have gone for it anyway instead of letting this moment pass her by. And it was not convenient, she says, this awkward moment at the prom, dancing to a rap song with the wrong person. There was a lot emotionally and physically standing between them. But we can picture her marching over to him mid-rap song, stealing him from his date and kissing him. It would have been far from convenient, and it would have probably blown up their social lives, but it would have been the best mistake, she says. Should have kissed you anyway. And when she's saying it would have been the best mistake, is that it wouldn't have been a mistake at all. It would have been perfectly purposeful. But what she's getting at is that she wouldn't look at it in hindsight as a mistake if she had gone through with it. So she wishes she could just go back in time and take that chance. But for now, she'll have to settle for living with her mistakes and all of the things left unsaid. In the refrain, we get to hear a few bits of her inner monologue during this time of high school turmoil. Don't make it awkward in second period, she says to herself back then. Might piss your ex off. Lately, we've been good. So she's saying to herself, don't make it weird, be cool. She's telling herself to act normal, and she's just pushing down these really intense feelings that she has for a friend. But she doesn't want to make waves. Lately, we've been good could mean that her ex and herself have been cordial lately, or it could mean that his ex and her, or his ex and him have been cordial lately. It's not clear who it is, but it could mean that this friendship has been smooth sailing as long as they don't admit their feelings. Either way, she's good, but not great. Lately we've been good, not lately we've been great. Staying friends is safe doesn't mean you should. So she's speaking both to her past self and to us, her reader. The safe option rarely brings the happiest change, and she's learned this through the lens of hindsight and experience. These three lines repeat again at the end of the refrain, emphasizing that this is the central message. Safety doesn't equal happiness, and you'll never know until you try. This is a similar message as Opalite, where she's learned that she can make her own happiness if she just lets herself be open to it. The bridge fast forwards in time and gives us another little anecdote in this timeline of their friendship. So the bridge begins, when I left school, I lost track of you. As friends from high school do, we go our separate ways, and what once seemed really important in this microcosm of our teen years is all but forgotten in your 20s. But while she's moved on, it seems like she never really forgot him. She goes on, Abigail called me with the bad news, goodbye, and we'll never know why. Her best friend Abigail, who is also mentioned in the song 15, phones to say that this friend has died. And we'll never know why alludes to a suicide or an accidental death. But this line also fits into the general theme of the song, which is unanswered questions. What if? What could have happened? What if I took a chance? What if I kept in touch? What if we were a couple? Would you still be dead? It was not an invitation, she says, of his death. And this completes the trio of things that didn't invite further action. But now we can see that this list of things that weren't invitations is a list of regrets. And now she takes action only once it's too late. But I flew home anyway. with so much left to say. She may not have been explicitly invited to his funeral, but she feels that she needs to say her final words in person. But home in this case also symbolizes childhood. She's flying home to her past life and her past self and revisiting this road less traveled by. It was not convenient, no, she says. And this is both of his death, her trip home, and the timing of this final admission. But I whispered at the grave, should have kissed you anyway. This is a really sad moment. She's finally saying to him what she wanted to say out loud, and he's not alive to hear it. In the previous line, she's saying, I should have kissed you anyway, to her past self. She's voicing her regrets, but only to herself. But now she's actually saying it to him while he's buried in the ground. What would have, could have, should have been is now dead and gone and buried, and she's mourning his loss, but she's also mourning the loss of childhood innocence, really. She had a myriad of points where she could have taken a chance and explored their chemistry, but youth can make us either too cautious or too reckless. And now that she's grown, she can distinguish big problems from small ones, and she kicks herself for not taking that shot while it was right in front of her. The post-chorus closes the song, and it begins with, and it was not. There's an M dash after not. So this is a purposeful omission, and she also did this in Elizabeth Taylor, where she said, I can't have fun if I can't have blank, M dash. In both of these, she's using the M dash to create a kind of fill in the blank. Here, it was not an invitation. It was not convenient. It was not brave. It was not closure. But what it is regret. She's emphasizing what wasn't and what could have been. My advice is to always ruin the friendship, she says, which is finally saying the quiet part out loud. This entire tale has been an allegory of what can happen if you're too cautious or too wary of rocking the boat. This is also the first time that the song's title appears in the lyrics, and it's in the final few lines. To ruin the friendship, in this case, means to move from the friend zone to the romance zone. But in the context of the rest of her worries in this song about whether their friend group would get mad or his ex would get mad or her ex or her date or whoever, she's also encouraging us to ruin those friendships. The message is basically stop caring about what other people think, even if they are your friends. Could it have not worked out and ruined their friendship forever? She will never know now, and she doesn't want others to have this same heart-stopping regret. So my advice to always ruin the friendship, better that than regret it for all time, means you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Being gun-shy with your heart or with people's feelings will only lead to this lifelong regret. Should have kissed you anyway, she repeats, but now it stands as a fill in the blank for anything that her reader regrets not doing. Any of our regrets we can insert here and retain the same message and the same meaning. And my advice is to always answer the question, she goes on. Better that than to ask it all your life. In this case, the unanswered question that lingers is, do you love him? Or would he have loved me back? But we can insert any big questions here and ask ourselves for the answers. Like, what would you do if you weren't afraid? Or what's the worst thing that could happen? This line, of course, also reminds us of the song Question for Midnights, which is basically the whole song is asking these questions that have been ruminating in your mind for ages. Here, she's encouraging herself and the reader to ask and answer those questions so that you don't keep stewing over it for the rest of your life. Should have kissed you anyway, she repeats twice more, which closes out the song with this haunting, lingering regret. She's saying, I should have taken my chance while it was right in front of me, and I don't want you to make the same mistake. Take your shot. You will never know until you try. So while the song may have been inspired by high school friends who have died either in her life or in others' lives, the meaning is really about regret. And we see that by the end, ruin the friendship really means to be fearless and to speak now. And in this track, she's really pulling on those narrative threads from those other albums, but doing it through the lens of hindsight. She's older and wiser, and she's learned the difference between big consequences and small potatoes. And for us who have grown alongside her, we've learned those lessons too. And while we can't go back and relive our childhoods, we can make bolder, braver decisions from now on. So we don't always wonder what would have, could have, should have happened had we been a bit more brave, or had we taken the road less traveled by. All right, that is all for track 6, Ruin the Friendship. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please like and subscribe wherever you are seeing or hearing this. I'm just starting this podcast and I'm terrible at marketing myself. So if you can leave a comment or review and share with your Swiftie friends, it would mean the world to me. All of this content is available on my website, linked in the show notes, so go check that out. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next episode where we will tackle Actually Romantic. See you next time. That's it for this chapter of Swiftly Sung Stories. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please don't forget to follow, subscribe, or leave a review. It helps other Swifties find their way here. I'm Jen, and I had a marvelous time reading everything with you. See you next time.